Hello everyone, I am Himasati Sharma and student. We are discussing the chapter called Chemical Effects of Electric Current. We have already discussed about conductivity of liquid, testers, effects of electric current like mechanical effect, heating effect and magnetic effect. Today we are going to discuss chemical effects of electric current. So whenever there is chemical reaction taking place in a chemical solution, if a current is passed through, it is called chemical effect of electric current. So a passage of current through chemical solution causes chemical reactions to take place. These reaction or changes are dependent on the type of solution and electrodes. Chemical effects include formation of gas bubbles at electrodes, deposition of metals at electrodes, and change in solution color. So we have already discussed in our previous lecture that in an electrochemical cell there are two electrode. One is positive electrode which is called anode, which is connected to positive terminal, and there is an anode which is there is a cathode which is connected to negative terminal, and this is a negative electrode. So cathode and anodes are there and electrolytic solution is there. So what is happening? Current is passing because current is conducted through these ions which are present in electrolytic solution. So now what is happening when the current passes through this circuit? The chemical changes or the chemical reactions takes place in this liquid. So what can be the effect? The gas bubbles can form at electrodes. At electrodes, metals can be deposited or there can be change in color of the solution. First, we'll discuss formation of gas bubbles. A British chemist whose name was William Nicholson performed an experiment which shows that if a current is passed through water, then bubbles of oxygen and hydrogen were produced. So here you can see this is the electrochemical cell. This is the conducting liquid. Electrodes are there. So this is the positive terminal. That means this is anode, and this is negative terminal. That means this is cathode. So metal caps for conductivity. Now carbon rod. These both are carbon rods, and this is water. The oxygen bubbles will present on positive electrode because oxygen is the oxide ion will be negative. Hydrogen bubbles, which will be positive, hydrogen ion is positive, therefore the bubbles will be on negative electrode. So what has happened here, that the passage of electric current through that conducting solution has caused some chemical reaction, and as a result of that chemical reaction or chemical change, bubble of gas has formed on electrodes. Next, we will be discussing electroplating. So electroplating is a process of depositing a layer of desired metal or any another material by means of electricity is known as electroplating. So we had discussed in our previous slide that chemical effects include. So first we discussed formation of gas bubbles at electrodes. Second effect was deposition of metals as electrode. So depositing of some metal or plating of some metal at electrode is called electroplating. So this is the second one which we are discussing. The process of depositing a layer of desired metal on another material by means of passing electricity in that solution is called electroplating. Example, using copper sulfate solution. Now copper sulfate is a salt and it is an electrolyte. So when copper sulfate is dissolved in water, it will break down into ion, copper +2 and sulfate -2. So copper will form copper cation and sulfate will form sulfate anion. So now copper sulfate is electrolyte. Is it clear? So copper sulfate will form ions. So therefore it is an electrolyte. It will be an electric solution. So now here what we are going to discuss? Electroplating of copper. So using copper sulfate solution as electrolyte and copper electrodes. Copper is electroplated on the negative electrode. Why copper is electroplated on the negative electrode? Which is a negative electrode? Negative electrode is cathode. So copper ion is positively charged. Copper Cu+2, copper ion positively charged, and positive will go to the negative electrode. That means cathode. So cations are going to cathode. So copper in the solution is replenished due to the addition of copper ions from the positive electrode. Process of electroplating. In order to conduct electroplating, right electrodes and electrolytes must be chosen so that metal can deposit over a metal. So in the process of electroplating, you need to choose correct electrodes and correct electrolyte. For example, if we want to deposit copper on a material, we need an electrolyte that contains copper in it. So if you want to deposit copper on, for example, on iron, so what do you need? You need electrolyte of copper, for example, copper sulfate. So one electrode will be of copper, another electrode will be of iron, and the electrolyte will be of copper. Similarly, if you need gold on a material, then electrolyte will be of gold. So one electrode will be of gold, one electrode, for example, is of silver. So if you want to electroplate gold on silver, so what do? One electrode of silver, one electrode of gold, and electrolyte of gold. So whichever material you want to deposit, electrolyte will be of that material. Also, we should make sure that electrode that we are choosing is completely clean. The electrode used are made up of different materials. One of the electrodes is of the same metal of which the electrolyte solution is. As we discussed, so here you want to deposit gold. So one electrode is of gold and the electrolyte is of gold. So here he is saying the same thing, that one of the electrodes, out of two electrodes, one of the electrode and the electrolytic solution will be of same metal. The second electrode needs to be the material on which we want to coat another metal. So for example, if you want to coat or if you want to plate gold on silver, so now here what will we do? There will be two electrodes, one is gold, other is silver. Because why silver? Because we want to deposit gold on silver. Therefore silver is required and gold is required. Now electrolytic solution will be of which metal that you want to deposit. Okay. So now two electrodes, one is silver, one is gold, and the electrolytic solution of gold. For example, we want to plate copper upon brass. So you want to plate copper upon brass. So one electrode will be of brass, one electrode will be of copper. And electrolytic solution of which metal? Copper. Clear? So one electrode should be of copper and other electrode should be of brass. And the electrolytic solution should be any salt which contain copper in it. For example, copper sulfate solution. Now consider the diagram which is given below describing the process of electroplating of copper. So here you can see this is the battery, positive terminal connected to the positive side, which is anode. Negative terminal to negative electrode, which is cathode. Now what is happening? Copper is required to be deposited on brass. So copper's one electrode is of copper and the electrolyte is of also copper, that is copper sulfate. Now copper sulfate will dissociate into copper positive ions and sulfate negative ions. So negative ions of sulfate will go to copper and copper positive will go to brass. So here copper is going to brass, here therefore copper is depositing on brass this way. That is how electroplating of a metal is done on another metal. So out of these two electrodes, the copper electrode act as the anode, which is a positive electrode, and the brass electrode act as the cathode, which is a negative electrode. So when electricity is passed, copper sulfate breakdowns into its ion, that means copper is positive and sulfate ions are negative. Copper ions which are positive get attracted to the brass electrode. Why to brass electrode? Because brass electrode is negatively charged. Whereas sulfur ions which are negative will go to copper electrode, which is connected to the positive terminal, hence it is positively charged. Here you can see again with this diagram, this is copper electrode, this is brass electrode connected to the battery. Now it is connected to the positive terminal, therefore this electrode is positive and this electrode is negative. Now if this solution has ions which are positively charged and which are negatively charged, so positively charged ions will go to negative because unlike charges attract each other. So Now, positive charge will go to negative terminal and negative charges will go to positive terminals. So hence the electroplating can be done. As a result, copper start depositing to the brass electrode. The process of electroplating takes some time to complete. The amount of time that it will take depends upon the strength of the current that is being passed through the circuit and also upon the concentration of the electrolyte. As these two are increased, the speed of the electroplating process also increases. Now the experiment we'll discuss in next lecture. Thank you.